the silver lining there is that you should always try new things, and sometimes when you fail, you actually succeed. So it was a really cool thing.
Running with Maverick and Wolfman. Maverick here.
Wolfman here. Don't forget to find us on Facebook, Instagram, X, the big one, YouTube. Please consider subscribing. Hit the thumbs up so we can keep bringing great stuff to you. So we have a special guest for you today. He has settled down in his hometown of Tunkhannock, Pennsylvania, where he began his running career and journey at the age of 14. He then went on to compete for Lock Haven University in both track and cross country. In 2016, he began a trail running while living in Park City, Utah, which he was hooked on and has since traveled throughout the United States and Europe to some of the biggest races in the world. After competing professionally with Hoka, he is now a race director, coach, and vice president of his local United Way. Please welcome Ben.
Hey guys, how's it going?
Good. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
So Wolfman just gave a nice introduction there of you, and there's more information in there that I was not aware of. Some of it I knew. So you ran for Hoka professionally, correct?
Yes, sir. Yeah, from 2021 and 2022.
And what was that like?
Yeah, it was a really incredible experience that like I didn't think that I would ever have. I was very persistent to kind of make that a reality, and when it finally came to fruition, it was kind of surreal. So yeah, it was really cool. Like my first month with Hoka, I was very fortunate enough to help them out with their Project Carbon X 2, which was in Arizona when Jim Walmsley broke the American record, and he was 11 seconds from the world record. I paced the guy who was in second, Raj Palpanu, who actually just won the 100-mile road championships this weekend. So it was just a really cool, like, just dive right head first into it. And that was a road event, but I was kind of specifically there for trail and ultra running. So yeah, it was just an incredible 2 years, and I'm just super thankful for it.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So yeah, it was like I said, it was cool because I spent 3 years like kind of thinking that I wanted to do that, just try to run professionally. I didn't know if I was ever going to be good enough, but um, it kind of came together because for 3 years in a row, I like researched and was pestering all the athlete managers at all the brands. And for 3 years in a row, I got the answer no. And then I jumped into the JFK 50-mile race, which was my first attempt at a 50-mile event, and it did not go well. I dropped out, but I reached out to the Hoka manager for the third year in a row, and he's like, that's cool that you were jumping up in distance and gave it a shot. So um, the silver lining there is that you should always try new things, and sometimes when you fail, you actually succeed. So it was a really cool thing.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome.
And
I guess my big question, because I ran for a store. I know a lot of people have run for stores, but like, what's it like running professionally? Like, what do you have to do? What do they expect of you?
Yeah, so on the trail side of things, I'm not sure how the road contracts work, but it's very individualized. Like I was able to have my own coach. I worked with David Roche from Colorado for 5 years, and so they don't give you any direction on who you have to work with coach wise, but they give you a big old list of races that is kind of like a bonus structure. So that was basically how you got paid, was by performance based. I know some of my friends they had like livable salaries, but most people that run did not. And I was fine by just having the opportunity, by having that structure in place. Um, and uh, and they gave you all the product that you needed, of course, as well.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that, a lot of people think professional whatever, and they assume that you are super famous and rich and like
yeah,
just get money thrown at you, which in
Mhm.
reality, a lot of the professionals in many industries are very, paycheck to paycheck until they hit a certain threshold, and then they're able to make it a really good existence. Um,
Mhm.
we think of like professional sports in America, and there's a lot of professional sports where the league minimum is actually a pretty nice salary, but that's
Mhm.
not for every single sport out there.
For sure. Yeah, it's really interesting, especially like trail running the last couple years has been kind of in this, I feel like, transition period where it's gained a lot of popularity. And like even like when I, it's only a couple years ago, but even when I was doing it a couple years ago, it seemed like there was only like a handful, maybe two handfuls of people that were doing it like full time where they could sustain on it. And now it
yeah,
feels like there's a lot of people, like brands are just really kind of diving into it. Hoka was kind of like the first to like really go after it, but now Adidas has a big representation. Craft, Nike kind of dips their toe in and then doesn't. They're kind of in and out. And then Brooks has a really big brand presence now. So it's really cool to kind of see the evolution just in these couple years.
Yeah.
yeah. That's
Mhm.
wild. It's wild.
Yeah.
Um, so you sent me a bunch of accomplishments. Um, I'll touch on the ones you sent me, but U.S. team at World Sky Running Championships in 2018, 2021. Second place in the USATF Trail Half Marathon Championships. Second place at their Trail 50K Championships. 2017 UROC 50K champion. FKTs on the West Rim Trail and the Old Loggers Path, both in PA. So, what accomplishment are you most proud of? Could be one of those. Could be something you didn't send me. Um, what would you say you're most proud of?
Hmm. Yeah, good question.
So we get paid to do.
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah, that's great. I think it's probably a combination. Oh man. I'm really thankful for that second place at the Trail Half Championships. That just mostly because that was like the best performance ever at the time. Like it was kind of out of nowhere. And then I did a race in Europe for Hoka where it was called the CCC. It's 100K. It's kind of like the world championships of that distance. And it starts in Switzerland, it starts in Italy, goes to Switzerland, and then ends in France. And that was just like one of the coolest experiences ever, just to be able to do that. And then I guess the third would be being able to be in the top 20 at the 2021 Skyrunning World Championships. So
That's
kind of
pretty
a
neat.
three-peat there.
Yeah. So when we've talked to other ultra runners and they get like, I forget what they call it, but their support system can be on the course and stuff with them. How does it work when it's more that professional setting? Like, are you guys allowed to have that support? Is it kind of like the Tour de France where they've got their pilot guy or whatever he is?
Yeah, yeah, so my wife normally comes out. Jill is out on course. There's designated aid stations. And yeah, so we go through a game plan. I have my spreadsheet the day before, what time I'm going to be there, what I need. So it's like it's pretty dialed in that sense that because she's done it for a couple of years now, she kind of knows exactly what I need when, which is really awesome. So yeah, at all the big ultra marathons, she's able to be there. The shorter distance ones, doesn't really have the opportunity, mostly because that's more of a it's more of a sprint. You just kind of grab whatever you can at an aid station and keep going.
Hmm.
But yeah, so it is pretty cool. Like the first experience I ever had at a big race like that, it was when I was living in Park City in 2016, and I went to the Hard Rock 100. And I don't know if you know Killian Jornet, but he won that year, so it was really cool to see like now one of my idols um, win. But I was hanging out at this aid station at mile like 80 in this big humongous mountain range, and they were handing out and making like grilled cheeses and soups, and I'm like, that was my first introduction to this. I'm like, what in the world is happening? Like, I've never experienced that before. But so they're just so much different than like being at a road marathon or something.
Wild.
But I love it. Yeah.
All right, I have to ask a question here. Um, so you said you ran in that championship. You ran from Italy to Switzerland to France. Now I just have to think about this for a second because I've never done an international race before. So like crossing over the borders and stuff like that. Like how do they coordinate that during a race with all those people around? Like how does that not like it's just fine? I'm so confused at how that would work out. Like in a bike race it makes sense like it's a road you're taking, you know, but so in a road race running, like how does that work out?
Yeah, so one of the requirements, they have like a gear list of what you have to bring with you.
Yeah,
One of them was your passport. Nobody's checking when you go
right,
over the mountain into the other country. However, I guess you need it just in case you were to like drop out and you need to go into a little village or something.
right.
But yeah, so that's happened before, but no, thankfully I did not need my passport. And um, like European countries are kind of like cool because they're also close. Like sometimes there's not even like guards when you're crossing over the different countries, especially over like mountain passes. Like the
Right.
stations there, but there's normally not somebody there to check, which is kind of cool.
Yeah. Yeah, that's pretty
Yeah,
wild. Like I said,
yeah.
I never really thought about it. Just like the
Yeah.
only thing I ever kind of watched was the Tour de France, and they're cycling through, and that makes sense. But in a running race, I was like, yeah, that's pretty wild because you're gonna have all those fans, and then
Hmm.
people from other countries competing and running through, and yeah,
Yeah.
just different. It's cool.
Yeah, I'm kind of curious as well, like, because my wife had to take the bus to different aid stations because they try to limit the traffic for that big event, and they didn't check that either. Maybe there's like a 1 day exception for like a bus route like that or something.
Yeah,
But yeah, that is a good thought. I never thought about that just because I was just always running, and when you're crossing over like the passes, you're like running through cow pastures and stuff, so you're not
right,
thinking
right.
Wow.
about
Yeah,
showing
I'm
your
just
passport.
I'm just so used to like flying where it's like you need all your stuff, all your ducks in a
Yeah.
Yeah.
row.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yep.
So what drew you to these ultra runs and these trail races?
Yeah. So, 2016, I graduated from Lock Haven, and I actually started a nonprofit called Mountain Track Club, which I that's why I moved to Park City. and the goal of that was to help athletes train for like the next Olympic cycle. Um, Long story short, that really that did not work out. That folded pretty quickly. My college business mindset, business plan didn't really work, but I'm really happy that I tried it. So when I moved to Park City, I was still like really focused on running track and road, and I was living in the basement of this like family's residence, and they just like housed athletes that were in town. And the father, who I'm still really good friends with, I always credit him for all of the reason why I like trail running. He kept on asking me to come out at like 5 a.m. for these trail runs. And one time I said yes. I'm like, all right, I'll just go this one time and I'll be done with it. And so he took me up this like massively steep. It was like 2,500 feet and like 3 miles. And we were like hiking, and I was like, all right, well, I'm gonna have to run later because this doesn't count for running. And, and then we got to the top, and he just starts sprinting down this like rocky ridge, and I'm like, okay, this is really cool. And like a minute and a half into it, I I wrecked. I hit a rock so hard with my foot. I still have a scar on my arm from it. I was like, this is the coolest thing ever. So I was like pretty instantly hooked after that run. But living in Park City, I mean, there's trails forever out there. So like just being able to do it, like after that run, I would run like once a week on the trails, and then um, pretty soon thereafter, I was running most of the time on the trails.
Funny. That's a funny story.
It is.
Yeah,
I love that he kept trying to get you out at 5 a.m. because that's totally me. Come on, let's
Yeah.
go. Let's go early.
yeah, yeah, exactly. I'm a morning runner, but I don't know in college. Being in college, you ran at like 3 o'clock in the
Yeah.
afternoon, so it
Yeah.
was a big switch. So
What is the deal with? I never understood that. Why did they pick that time?
in college,
Yeah.
I don't know. I maybe
I don't
it's
know
You
either.
could run it any time. You could make a schedule work for everybody on the team. I never understood the let's run
yeah,
at 3:30
Do you
mindset.
think
yeah.
do you think it's because it's an easy transition from high school? I mean, most schools are done at that time and they start
Dude,
practices
that
around
is
then.
I am the most tired at that time. That is like my snooze time.
That's a good point. Me too.
It always drove my athletes nuts too. They're like, "This is the
Yeah.
hottest part of the day," and I'm like,
And you don't
"I
race
Yeah,
like
I know."
when's the last time that a race started at 3:30 p.m.? Like when was that?
I
Well, some
guess
of the
some
cross
track
country ones
events.
do. Yeah, track does too.
Right, but I mean
Yeah,
like for cross country, it was like we ran in the mornings, man.
yeah, true. Yep. I didn't
But
like track, like some of the distance events. Like I remember the Bucknell 10K started at like, and the Penn relays, they started at like 10 p.m. And
yeah, oh yeah.
I'm going to bed at like 9 o'clock. It's like crazy. But I
Let
don't
me just
know.
wake up a little bit here.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. Always
I
have
forget
coffee.
I forget which track meet it was last year, but same thing. Some of my distance guys were going super late, and we encouraged them to take a nap, like
Mm,
take a nap, eat your dinner,
yeah.
like
Did that
we're
work
gonna go
for
running
them?
for a while. What advice do you have for somebody that wants to get into trail running or these ultra trail events?
I'd say it's not as different as you think in terms of the training. Um, I kind of think that like really specific road marathon training is kind of more strenuous. It beats you up a little bit more. But really to be good at trail, well, you don't not even to be good. You can just jump into a trail race and try it. But I'd say like the training is pretty much the same, except the specificity part. Like if you can get on a trail like once a week, once every other week, and then just kind of build your base outside of that, you're going to be ready to run a trail race. Because when I think of like uphill specific in trail running, a lot of that comes from like speed in general. So if you have a really fast like speed base, you can get up those hills pretty good still. So if you're like not working on speed, it's still going to be like you could still get up it, but it's just I think that speed really helps get up those like steep mountains a lot better. So I'd say it's just not as different as you might think. I think that it's good to just jump in and try.
So, Ben, I just want to put some perspective on this. So, can you just throw out some of your PR times, like maybe your mile, your 5K, things like that, so people can have an idea about how fast you were running in, like, say, college and after college?
Sure, yeah, and it seems like especially after the last 2 weeks, everything is slow compared to when we were in school. But I ran 4:10 in the mile, 8:20 in the 8:18 in the 3K, 14:30 in the 5, and then 30:30 in the 10K. Um, I think my favorite event was the 3K though.
Yeah, 3K is fun for sure. And
Hmm.
those are all fast times, just to put in perspective for our listeners that aren't real familiar with track events and cross country events. Those are all very fast times. Would you say of the shorter events, what is your favorite?
Probably the indoor 3K just because
Indoor, yeah.
it's like the mile, but it's like mile pace, but it just hurts longer. Um, but other than that, probably the 5K, the outdoor 5K is so fun.
Outdoor.
Yeah.
Yeah, the indoor 3K, there's just something about that.
Yeah.
It's really a fun race when you're in
Hmm.
shape.
Yeah. Exactly. Yep. Yep. I remember when I ran my PR. It was 1 year after college, and uh, I went to I think it's the track in Staten Island. I can't remember what it's called. It was like the first or second year that it was open. And I asked before the race because I knew that there was a pacer in it. I said, "Well, what are you guys going out in?" And they said, "We're going to go through the mile in 4:14 or 4:15." I'm like, "I'm not going with you guys." I'm like, "I'm gonna stick." I ran 4:24, and no, I ran 4:20, and then like stuck on that pace because those guys were flying.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah, like it's such a fun event. It's just like as hard as you can for 8 to 9 minutes.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, the faster you get, there's less and less people that can run with you, but there is potentially someone that could run a lot faster than you.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
even if you're even if you're one of the elite, one of those people in contention for like a gold medal, you still can have an off day and someone could run away from you that day.
Yeah, yep, exactly. Like the half marathon yesterday, you ran like 4:19 pace for 13 miles. It's crazy.
It's crazy.
It is
Yep,
wild.
I love it. It's fun. Road running is so fun to follow along. I feel like the best half marathoners and marathoners in the world are like the most fit people in on the planet. It's like unbelievable what they can do.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. It
Yeah,
is
the
pretty
body just gets
incredible.
so used to it. Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
Do you do anything else for exercise, or is just running?
Oh, mostly running. My wife and I like to hike, especially we like to get out in the summer and hike on some PA trails and like Central PA has some of our favorite local trails, and then we go up to the Adirondacks. I like to hop on the bike sometimes. I do have a road bike. I just don't get out as much as I'd like. So I'd like to incorporate that more this year. I do have. I create a yearly goal list, and one of my goals this year is to do my first 100-mile road bike ride. So that's kind of a big one that I don't. I would like to get checked off this year.
Like a race, or just a ride?
Oh, just a ride, just for
Just a
fun.
ride.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
Yep.
It's a long ride.
I feel like yeah, there's things that would hurt that I don't think that they would like they
Right.
would. Do you guys
Yeah.
ride bike a lot?
I do not.
I had a road bike for a very brief period of time, and it was so much commitment that I had to give it up. But yeah, no, I mean, like 25 miles on a bike is long enough for me.
Yeah, Yeah, same. I think my longest bike currently is 20, so I'm just kind of like diving off the deep end there.
Yeah, 100. Everyone that I know that's a cyclist that does like 100-mile rides, it's just there's a lot that goes into that. There's a lot of preparation. There's a lot of things that
Hmm.
can mishap.
Hmm.
I always just thought like the worst thing ever be like you get out like 15 miles and then get a flat. That's like
Yeah.
this is like the worst.
Yep. Oh, totally. Yep. I totally agree. That's why like I don't even have a spare tire, so like if that happens, I'm just kind of
Yeah,
SOL. I have to give somebody a call.
that's what it is. Like just bring your phone, ride
Yep.
another day.
Yep. Exactly.
Do people carry spares when they go on that type of ride? I have no idea. I don't ride bikes like that, but do
I
they carry
assume
a full
so.
spare?
I
They have
assume
like
so.
like extra tubes and stuff to like switch it out themselves, but like I never felt comfortable doing that. Like I
Gotcha.
would ride with other people that I think could have probably done that, but I wasn't going to be switching out I was just going to call it a day and go for a run.
So it's not like you carry a full like rim and everything. Like you
No,
just
that
the
would be
Mm.
hilarious
traveling
though if you
tube.
did. I
Yeah,
That
think that
would
would be
be.
worth
that's how
that'd be worth
naive I am
watching.
about it.
Like, dude with like
That's
one in the
great.
front, one in the back, like two spares.
It's
That's
on your
awesome.
back like a Jeep.
Yeah, it says that. Yeah,
That's great.
yeah.
Um,
But yeah, those narrow tire bikes they do go flat. I mean,
really,
is a valid possibility versus like a mountain bike is a lot less likely.
Hmm. Yep.
that's wild. Wild. So how do you prepare for one of these races?
Yeah. So just depends on the distance and the terrain, really. So I feel like a 50K pretty runnable trail race. When I say runnable, like 50K with like 3,000 to 4,500 feet of elevation gain. That's kind of close to like a road marathon because you need the speed and the endurance for it. But if you think about like my favorite discipline is sky running, so that's like extremely steep, extremely technical. Um, that's more specific training where instead of doing like higher mileage, I do kind of less mileage but more elevation gain. So for those races, I'll try to, instead of go for like 90 to 100 miles a week, I'll try to do like 75 to 80, but I'll try to hit at least like 14 to 16, 14 to 18,000 feet of elevation gain in a week. Um, and then like I'm going for my first 100-mile finish this fall. So it's a really runnable course. So I'll probably stick to that 95 to 105 miles a week. So it just depends on the race
Yeah,
and the terrain. So lots of different. I like to mix it up. So my training is a lot different throughout the year.
I gotcha. So how far are these sky running races? Are they a certain distance or they vary a lot?
They vary, but anywhere basically like the bigger ones are anywhere from um, most of them are like 15 to 20 miles. There are some that are shorter, some that are like marathon in distance.
Yeah.
So it just depends, but like the championship style is like 15 to 20 miles.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, they're the best. They're so fun just because they're so unique um, that it's kind of hard to train for it around here. But thankfully, I live right next to Miller Mountain, so I do a lot of my training there, and then I hop on the treadmill to get the specific elevation gains that I can't get um, on like a mountain locally.
Yeah. Yeah.
Ben, I have to ask you, can you give Wolfman some advice on his breakfast before marathon?
Yes, of course. What advice can I help with?
Well, I
Well,
don't know, but my go-to breakfast before a marathon is, part superstition and part I don't like to be hungry when I run,
Yeah.
especially that distance. I truly think that if you get to a point where you're hungry, you've already put yourself kind of behind. But anyway, it's Dunkin' Donuts, uh, sausage, egg, and cheese croissant, and extra large coffee.
Every time that's your go-to?
That that's my go-to marathon. If it's available, like at Disney, it wasn't available, but if there's a Dunkin' around, that's what I'm getting.
Hmm.
Now, the thought of that just makes me want to throw up before I run. So if you could just maybe tell us what you do or something.
I like it. If it works for you, stick with it.
That's
I,
what I say.
I every day I eat oatmeal, so that's my pre-race, pre-run, pre-anything day. So we make overnight oats. So we'll make it the night before, put some peanut butter, some cinnamon, and honey in it, and then
Yeah,
it's ready in the morning. So that's my
I
go-to
like
for
it.
sure. Yep. But
So
that's funny. I like that pre-race ritual.
yeah, I even like plan accordingly. Like when I did Boston those few times, I figured out where to get off the train to go to the Dunkin' Donuts first, which in Boston it's easy; they're everywhere, and
Hmm.
then from there to the start line.
Yeah. Well, I don't blame you. Whenever I go to different towns to race, I always have to make sure wherever we're staying, I look for coffee shops around where we're staying.
Ah,
So I'm not getting a sausage McMuffin, but I am getting a coffee from a local coffee shop beforehand.
yeah. So
But
how do you fuel for a race? Like during one of these races, how do you fuel?
yeah, so it's pretty dialed. Like I feel like the ultra industry is getting pretty dialed in that sense. Like those like the Tour de France, they're like so dialed. It's like they know exactly every ounce of carb that they need at any point. Um, so I found that like what I need for me specifically to be like on point is between 80 and 100 grams of carbs an hour.
Yeah,
So I'll get that between hydration mix and gels. The gels that I like, the one gel I like has 20 grams of carbs. The other one I like is 30. Um, so that's that. If I have one every half hour, that's 50 an hour, and then my drink mix generally has 30.
yeah,
Um, I have a high carb drink mix that I like to kind of throw in every once in a while. So sometimes I'll like get a little bit above that mark. Um, but later on, like when you're getting to like mile 8 and 10 in a race, your body doesn't like it doesn't really like the same things that it did at hour one. So um, you have to kind of get creative and use different stuff at the aid stations. Like I know some ultra marathon people, like they bring their toothbrush to have at aid stations to like because your taste buds don't like the gel anymore, so
huh,
you have to get the flavoring out of your mouth. But like me specifically, I like watermelon, uh, oranges. I like pretzels. The European aid stations have really interesting things like cheese and cured meats. So I stay away from that during the race.
Wolfman would
And
love that.
there you go.
I
That
would.
would be great. Um, Peanut butter sandwiches are pretty good too during the race. So yeah, but mostly I'm mostly gel and mix, unless it's a really long race.
Gotcha.
So are you stopping during these races at all, or are you just pushing through? Like
At the aid
between walking,
stations,
stopping.
yeah, at the aid stations, I'll stop to refuel and stuff. I try to make it I try to make it short. When I say short, like you have to take all your gels out. You have to replenish. Like when I did a race in Arizona, like you have to replace your ice. So like it is kind of a process. So I try to be out in less than 60 to 90 seconds just because you want to keep moving, but also motivation wise, your motivation kind of drops when you're sitting there. So yeah,
What,
I try to be in and out as quick as I
what do you mean by the ice?
can. Yeah, so I did a race in Arizona, and the high that day was 98. So, like I had a bandana that had a zipper, so you were able to stuff ice in it.
Mm.
So I had to refill that, and then if I didn't have like my crew, I would just shove ice right into my shirt. I just had to keep my core body temperature down because if it gets elevated too much, not only does your heart rate stay elevated and it's hard to get down, but also your body doesn't like to eat or take in any calories. So you have the risk of like throwing up or something like that. So yeah, it's really unique running in the super hot heat
Yeah.
um, for those reasons.
Wow.
But
Wow.
but yeah, and things like sky races, like some of the pitches are so steep that you're not running the whole time. You have to use your hands sometimes. You have to hike at points. So yeah, there's points where you have to walk, but I'll generally just stop at the aid stations.
I think it would be funny to see someone running in one of those hot climates with like a cooler behind them, like dragging it on wheels.
I have not seen that, but that would be pretty funny.
Like,
I've
not real
seen,
worried about my time, just worried about cooling off.
yep,
Yeah.
exactly, yep. Well, I at that race in Arizona, like, um, people had some really unique things. Like they would carry like one of those hand fans where you could spray
Oh yeah,
yourself.
Yeah.
So people had those, and they would just stuff ice wherever they could. So,
yeah,
um, yeah, really cool. Yep. Yeah, you guys should try it. You guys would love it, I think.
I'm trying to get him to do a marathon, but maybe we could start with a trail race and then a marathon be easier.
Just dive right
start with
into the
a.
50K. I think that would be fun.
Oh jeez.
Yeah.
So what's the strangest thing you've consumed either during a race or during training?
The strangest.
Or unconventional. It doesn't have to be
Pizza,
strange.
probably. Pizza's pretty good.
Pizza?
Um, yeah, because it has like, I don't know, it's so like, especially after eating like sugary gels all day, you're like the cheese and the saltiness is like so good. It's like such a craving. Well, I could eat pizza any day of the week regardless, but still, it's really good.
It has to be like because it has the fat in it too. Like that's probably like awesome.
Right.
Something to finally like process.
Definitely. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
That's
No,
funny that
nobody.
you go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say nobody has said pizza yet, but I bet they would have said pickle pizza. That seems to be the popular thing, the
Pickle
pickle thing.
Pete's. Yes,
Yeah.
yeah. People love the pickle stuff. I tried. I was like hurting really bad during my first 100K, and I had some like soup broth during the race. That was actually really good. And then some. I was like really bonking, and they were trying to give me pickle juice, and I smelled it, and I was like, I'm not having that. And then they like made me drink it, and I like immediately spit it out. I'm like, that's not helping. But
That this pickle juice is bad.
it's terrible. I'm not a pickle juice guy, but Red Bull's pretty good during runs too. I don't drink
Really?
Red Bull in life, but the only time that I drink Red Bull is during like a really long race.
That's
That's
interesting.
funny.
Yep, yep.
I feel like that would
So
make me burpy. Not
yeah, you could
burpees, burpy.
flatten it out. So like the first time that I was in a European race, um, I was in a low point. It was during a 50K, and I came into this aid station, and I said, "Give me some Coca-Cola," and I I pointed to it because they were French, and she poured Coke in, and then she started to pour water in. I'm like, no, no, I don't want water and Coke together, and she continued to do it, and she gave it to me, and it took all of the carbonation out. It was just the sugar water. It was like perfect. So it like took
Yeah,
all the bubbly out of it. It was great.
that's
That's so
wild.
funny.
So
I
yeah,
actually have
do
a
that.
cousin. I have a cousin who one time we went out to a restaurant and he ordered a Sprite and a water, but instead of saying Sprite and a water, he said Sprite and water. So that's what they brought him was that mixture.
Oh
Yeah,
no, that's
yeah.
awesome. Did he like it?
No, he hated it.
That's
But I said
awesome.
you got to order it so people understand you, man. You got to break those words up.
Yeah,
Yeah,
well, I like it. Well, he wasn't thinking, "Hey, I need not carbonated so I could
Yeah,
run more." He
he
just
wasn't running from anybody.
yes, exactly.
he,
That's
he was he
funny.
was lifting weights and staying put.
Yep,
lifting
that's
weights and
great.
staying put. I like it. That's funny.
That's
So,
awesome.
what's next, Ben? What's on the list?
What's next? I have some races coming up. I have five main ones. I do want to do some. I'm gonna. Pennsylvania has this trail running series called Rocksylvania. I really want to do the 10K series this year, so um, I'll probably try to jump into as much of those as I can. But my four main races, I guess five main races now. I'm racing a 28K in California in March, and then a 50K in California in April called Canyons 50K. And then in May, I'm doing Sky Race in Austria. So those are my three spring ones. And then in the fall, I'm doing the Grindstone 50K in Virginia, and then the Javelina 100 mile in October. So um, that is kind of my year, and then sprinkling the small ones. So
Yeah,
I'm excited about that.
awesome. Good luck
So
with those.
thank you. Yes, yeah, it'll be fun. Yeah, you could. You guys are welcome to hop in any of the trail races, and we can run together. That would be great.
Sure. Ben, what kind of mileage do you put in for the year?
What did I do last year? For the year, I think I was around 3,500, 36.
Uh,
Um,
like my car.
there we go. Yeah. Yep. So, yeah, it kind of evens out. I take like a good 2 solid weeks off a year. Like I'll take one week completely off in the fall, one completely off at the end of spring, and then the rest of the year I'm trying to get ready for racing.
So what do you do on your week off?
A lot of house projects
Love
that
it.
I don't normally get to do.
The honeydew
Um,
list.
yeah, so yeah,
I've got 15 miles of energy to burn. What do you want me to do next?
yeah. By day 6 and 7, I'm so bored. So the first like 5 days are great of getting stuff done.
Sure.
Um, so yeah, no, I love doing yard work. I love doing stuff around the house. So like, I did landscaping for like 8 years. So like doing stuff around like now that we have a house, it's like so much fun. I get to trim the bushes and cut the grass and shovel the snow. It's great.
Yeah, that's funny.
Yeah. So so that's what I get to do on my days off.
What advice do you have for somebody who just wants to get started with running? Not necessarily the trail stuff, just they want to start running, they don't know where to start. What would you tell them?
I would say make a schedule and be consistent. I would say don't start too quickly. But I think that the consistency piece is the most important thing. Like if you're fresh, like you're just starting running, the first 3 weeks is going to be terrible. But if you could pick like 3 or 4 days a week and like know that you're going to train 3 to 5 days a week and you know that you're going to train and then like, say Monday and Friday are going to be your rest day. Like if you could stick to a consistent schedule, like it's going to be so helpful to get into a routine and stick to it. But regardless, the first couple weeks is going to be hard.
Yeah,
I think
You
that's
just
for
got
good
to
sure.
get
advice.
over that bump.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's good advice.
Hmm.
Solid advice.
Well,
Yeah,
thanks.
it's
Yeah.
just one of those things that, like, even if you can't do a lot of mileage, just go out and do it.
Hmm.
Whatever your routine is, if it's 3 times a week, 4 times a week, just go out and do it, even if it's not a lot of miles.
Yep. Yeah. I've like coached folks that like are just coming back from a long injury or um, and like their schedule isn't even like mile based. It's like go out for 30 minutes, run for 2 minutes, walk for one, run for two, walk for one. You just have to get started somehow, and
Yeah.
just eventually the 2 minutes goes to 3 to 4, and then you're running the whole run.
Yeah.
You run 100 Ks.
Then you're
Yeah.
running 100K. Then you're ready. Yep, that's right.
Yeah, I think that people don't realize, like, you didn't start with 3,000 miles a year. You started somewhere else.
Yeah, no, my
4,000.
first day of running, yeah, my first day of running, I couldn't even run the 2 mile route. It was awful. It was ninth grade cross country, and um, it was my first year, so I did junior high because you were able to bump down. So I'm like, I'm just gonna do junior high because it's so terrible, and and yeah, no, 2 miles, I couldn't even do it. And so then eventually you just stick to it and it works out. You just have to stick to the plan.
Yeah.
But
That's so
yeah,
funny
so
because some people are just like naturally talented. They're in shape or whatever. They're able to do it. And other people are just, they're not. And it kind of depends on your background and what you're used to.
yeah.
But I just always find that to be interesting because you'll see someone who's like the worst runner on the team, and all of a sudden they're like making states, and you're like, what happened in the last 4 years to
Hmm.
make them so much better? But
Yeah.
yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah. That was me totally because I was so bad that first year. But then I was like so fortunate because I had such a good group of, I mean, cross country kids are awesome. So I just had such a good group of people to train with, and we would always every day we would get together, even in the summer, winter, and especially once we all started to get a little better. Like, I'm not saying this was a good idea, but we would always like the last half mile just like sprint,
Oh,
just to see
geez.
who could out sprint the other person to the track again. But it
I
made
would
us
have loved.
better
I would have
somehow.
loved being on that team.
Yeah, that it was fun. I loved it. But
Yeah,
yeah, so definitely. Now, Maverick, do you coach or do you do any of that?
I do a little coaching for like people, but not for a team. So I'm not in the team standards like Wolfman is.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, that's something that I did a little bit in college, but then kind of got away from. It was just the schedule wasn't working out.
Hmm.
Um, are you refresh my memory? You work for yourself, you have your own company. Is that how you operate?
My main job, I get to help people retire at a place called Stonehouse Investment Management. So that's my main
Oh,
job. But yeah, I coach about 10 or 11 people, and then
okay.
yeah, I put those couple races on in town here.
So the coaching, do you do like like pay coaching or more like volunteer?
Paid, yeah. So I do online coaching.
Okay,
I have people spread out, sprinkled out throughout the country. It's only 10 people, but a couple people in PA, but mostly outside of PA.
very cool. Very cool.
But yeah, I love it. It's fun. It's just like a nice routine because it's so different from my main job. So you get to really, especially like longer term, like a couple people because I have a daily training log. I've been coaching for over 1,000 days, so it's just so cool to see
Yeah, that's
like
neat.
the progression throughout the 1,000 days. Of
Yeah,
course, there's ups and downs along the way, but you could always look back and see kind of what you've done.
Right. Right.
Hmm.
yeah. There's always the ups and downs. We got to stick with it.
Yep.
It's
Yeah.
the bottom line.
Yep. Exactly.
Well,
So,
And
Ben, it
well,
was great hearing from you. Oh,
yeah.
sorry, Wolfman.
Oh, I was just going to ask where people can find you if they wanted to find you.
yeah, of
Not
course. Yeah.
physically,
So
but online.
Online, that's right. Strava is probably what I use most. I don't use social media that much anymore. But yeah, use Strava. You can find me, Ben Robinson, and my Instagram is, I think, Ben_Robinson 88. But yeah, I post every once in a while on there whenever I do a race or something. So either way is great.
That's great. Ben, thanks so much for being on the show. We really appreciate you coming on, sharing with us about your adventures and running and
Yeah.
life. And we wish you the best and look forward to hearing about all your future endeavors.
Yeah, thank
Nice.
you. Thank you for
Well, I
coming on.
appreciate you guys. Yeah, keep doing it. You guys are doing great. So keep doing what you're doing, and I appreciate you having me on.
Thank you.
And if you decide to have a extra large coffee and a sausage, egg, and cheese croissant before a marathon or 100K or something like that, please let us know how it works out.
That's great. I might give it a try and shoot you guys a message.
Hey, there you
That'd be
go.
great.
Yeah.
All right.
Awesome.
Thanks again.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Ben.
guys. Yep. Have a good night.
Maverick and Wolfman running out.